but keep going. I can still hear you.
Okay. So they've been trying to remove Maduro from power. They attempted to claim that Juan Guaido, the leader of their, mostly irrelevant parliament, was actually the real president. Donald Trump invited him to the State of the Union and announced that he was the real president. And I've said many times, I think Donald Trump has to play along with one side or the other in all of these situations because he needs to keep his hands off the thing. But Maria Corina Machado was declared the rightful ruler of Venezuela by people like Elon Musk and General Flynn and Patrick Byrne and some others. I think that's always been a very, very strange op. She's an NGO leader who was part of the quote unquote opposition. She didn't run yet. Still, they're trying to elevate her to the presidency. And until Ashe comes back, I guess there is, oh, there she is. And
yeah, I think I might've fixed it. Fingers crossed.
Good. Yeah. So, and that's not to mention, actually I lost my train of thought when you disappeared. So
the last thing that I heard was that, Trump and Elon Musk and everybody declared her the real winner at the, State of the Union, have to play along. I didn't hear anything after that.
Trump did that with Guaido a few years ago. He did not do it with Maria Corina Machado, but Marco Rubio has, General Flynn has, Patrick Byrne has, Elon Musk has. She was never the leader. Oh, this is what I was going to say. The evidence that Maduro stole that quote unquote election, and elections are fake. Maduro's not going anywhere, election or not. The evidence that was stolen was exit poll reports from Edison Research. That's an American group. That's where our election results come in from. And then they took the opposition's records, these receipts of a partial vote that they showed heavily favored the opposition. And they said, this means that Maduro stole the election. There was no evidence at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a pot kettle sort of thing, isn't it? The U.S. government intelligence community telling people that someone else stole elections. That's actually a great segue into
well, wait, before we segue,
good.
I want to do a little flashback to one of the, I have that video pulled up here, to one of the greatest videos ever. This is basically what we just watched.
We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
How embarrassing.
Got to fake a phone call. That's how you know it's real.
We do love a fake phone call. That is embarrassing. All right. So speaking of fake elections, Dominion voting system. This is, I texted Brian yesterday. I said, you picked the absolute worst possible time to go on vacation. He's at a wedding or something like that. But this is, has the potential to be one of the biggest stories in the and if the news were real, I think it would be, because Dominion voting systems, it appears they're going to attempt to rebrand. Sale finalized in September makes Leyendecker sole private owner. Cost of the sale was not disclosed. Dominion Voting Systems, which was at the center of the controversy following the 2020 election, was recently renamed Liberty Vote and was sold to the new ownership late last month. New owners announced Thursday. Voting company was sold to Republican Scott Leyendecker, a former director of elections for the city of St. Louis. The Hill reported. Leyendecker also created the largest provider of electronic poll books called No Ink. I know for certain that they're used in Indiana. There's some interesting things that have happened there. With those poll books, Sale makes him the sole private owner. And here's his quote: "Liberty Vote signals a new chapter for American elections, one where trust is rebuilt from the ground up." Leyendecker said in the statement, Liberty Vote is committed to delivering election technology that prioritizes paper-based transparency, security, and simplicity, so voters can be assured that every ballot is filled in accurately and fairly counted. So as you know, I said before, I can be convinced that this is potentially a good thing. There's that this could be a good thing, right? So the Dominion voting systems, all of their assets, all of their source code, all of their vendor contracts and budget records, all of those things are ostensibly owned by a potential Trump ally right now. But what I don't like is trust us, bro.
Yeah.
And so this news broke yesterday, and there's a National Pulse article about it. Brian shared it and said, how is this going to be different? That you can't rebrand technology and expect us to think it's going to work differently. And Raheem came into the comments on his post, and Brian had shared Raheem's post, so it's fair. But basically, like, attacking Brian, accused him of bad faith. And at the end of the day said, just trust me, as the guy out of the gate and who's gone harder on the 2020 election than anybody else. Just trust me. I also claimed to have been in White House meetings where the vendor contracts and potentially the technology were discussed, and he claimed they're just not just going to be using the old tech. At the same time, Line & Decker and Liberty Vote put out a statement yesterday saying that they're going to be upgrading or retiring all of the tech. So they are going to be using the tech. They're just going to patch it and upgrade it. And maybe we're going to do a full source code review and find out all of the things that happened with Dominion, because no one's ever been able to look at that source code before. Right. And so, could be a good thing, but it's never going to be trust me, bro. Trust me, bro is done. It's done in most facets of society. I could probably make an argument for all of them, but it's 100% done when it comes to elections. We're not rebrand. First of all, you can't even convince me that we need election technology in the national sense, maybe even at the state sense. I could probably be convinced at a state sense, but it would be limited technology application, because we're talking about counting. We're talking about voting and counting to determine the will of the people. And we're being told we need election technology. What do you think about this story, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are very much in line with yours. I am opposed to election technology generally, but there are specific cases I could think about and consider that might be worth introducing the technology element. I'm not sure elections can be real. Okay, so that's the first thing. If we go ahead and we have, like, you can imagine a scenario where they're theoretically real and totally verifiable. Every vote that is counted is lawful from an American eligible citizen. It is properly cast. It is properly counted. You can imagine all those things. And still we have the question of whether or not a regime in power is going to hand that power over as the result of the people's expression of their will and consent. And I don't think under the global regime system, there's any reason to believe that they are going to say, okay, well, the United States happens to be our most powerful asset country, but the people, they decide they don't like what we're doing, so we're going to hand the country back to them. There is no way in hell that happens. Okay, so the idea that elections can be real past that point doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Theoretically, if we want elections, if we want to believe that government of, by, and for the people is possible, not sure it is, but if it is, and we want elections, then I suppose it's possible if we have some system that builds enough trust, whether it's a blockchain technology or whatever else. If there is a technological element involved in securing our elections in a system that has been well thought out and that we can vet, that is transparent and whatever, it's not like I'm opposed to technology across the board, but with the machine voting that we have seen and the way they go about it, there's no reason to have any faith in that system.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And gosh, it was probably 2 years ago at this point. Holly, my friend Holly, my co-defendant in the legal stuff, wrote The Election Fraud Machine, and I think she wrote that for Badlands. But she has this image in it, and you've got three major cogs. I wish I could pull I probably could, but it would, take me too long. But 3 major cogs, and then the little cogs, and it's you're looking inside of this machine. You've got inputs going in, you've got election results coming out the other side, and the complexity is based on what we're told reality is as it pertains to elections. So you have the voting, the voters, the ballots, and the count, basically the technology to count, the mechanisms by which ballots are designed and printed and delivered, track, trace, all of the ballot ecosystem, and then of course the voters and the voter rolls and the e-poll books and all of those things in that's just the vendors and the technology. And you have all of the layered in local statutes and state statutes and federal HAVA requirements that come along with that system. Then you have the bureaucratic roles that people play throughout the system. And what Holly was asserting in that argument, she kind of followed it up in her blockchain good, blockchain voting bad article, is you can't take one cog out of that system, plug something different that sort of looks the same and might fit in its place, and expect that you're going to get different outputs. This is my issue with blockchain voting. I think that there are great applications for blockchain. G and I argue about Bitcoin being the voting solution, but I'm actually a big fan of blockchain technologies. I think immutable ledgers are a great thing. But when it comes to elections, we're going to take out our current voter rolls, for example, and plug in a blockchain voter roll solution. We're not going to get different outcomes if the data processes and statutory requirements and the way that voter rolls are changed on that immutable ledger, if those processes aren't changed as well. And that's what we're facing with elections, is that the fraud happens, fake voters, fake ballot, fake counts. It happens on all of the different fronts. And the system is built for plausible deniability. That's why when you have, inside the machines in the system logs for the counting processes, everybody's using EMS admin credentials and the same password. So the system logs don't show who did anything. It shows that EMS admin did all of it. Right. And everybody's EMS admin. So nobody is EMS admin. So there's plausible deniability throughout. The problems are technology based, but they're also human process based, and they're, a byproduct of bureaucracy. I think this is what, the stories of Doge that we were told, going in and finding waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't think anybody had to be convinced that it existed. I think we were all kind of surprised that there wasn't more of it, right? And so we have to have, if we're going to have elections, and I love it when you say things like, I'm not sure that it is required for us to have elections, because then I want to, and it's not the appropriate show, but maybe a GART panel or something, when I dig into like, what are the consensus protocols, and how do we, as small collectives, confer our decision rights, and how do we make decisions as groups of society and not just individuals in that ecosystem? I could be convinced, but it's definitely not Liberty vote replacing Dominion voting in the election fraud machine, and everybody's like, trust us, it's good now.
The one interesting thing I will give to the side who's saying trust us about knowing is that there's supposed to be some legitimate paper element to that. Now, the problem with these things is that there's just so much about the situation that we don't know, and we don't know if we're going to be told. And that's the real difficult part, because I agree with you. Just the change in ownership doesn't give me any confidence whatsoever in the systems that we've already determined deserve no confidence. So that part I am totally on board with. I don't know ultimately what the fix is, but the situation as it exists does not confer legitimacy to anyone elected under these systems, which means that there's no legitimacy to their governance, which means the people are not required in any way to abide by their governance. And we have to get past all of these points before we are able to understand that the election system is thoroughly corrupted. It was designed to be corrupted in this way, and they continue redesigning it to allow for more corruption every time one of their avenues is cut off. And so until the whole thing is stripped down to the absolute bare bones and rebuilt only with the things we need, I don't know that this situation can persist, or I should say, this situation will persist as it has been, with no election legitimacy available anywhere, except when you can see a broad public mandate like the one Donald Trump has. But there's no broad public mandate for any of these Congress people or any of these senators. At minimum, we need to go back to the old style of elections where things are handled within states and people are taking responsibility at a local level so that their elected members of Congress from that local level end up representing directly their interests when it comes to something like the Electoral College. But the changes in our election system from early on in our country's history have made the legitimacy of that election system as it originally existed, they've obliterated that, and it's not coming back.
I completely agree. And I'm skeptical. The paper story is one that has been manipulated, right? Sure. So in Colorado, they will say, well, we know that we can trust the gold standard of elections that we have here because we have paper ballots and we led the way on paper ballots. And also we pioneered risk limiting audits. And so, we have paper ballots and risk limiting audits. And so we can trust the technology, even though the technologies are, I don't think we can. And one of the reasons for that is that the paper ballot plus risk limiting audit equals vulnerable tech is fine message comes to us from J. Alex Halderman. It was Halderman, in the wake of the 2016 election, he participated in a whole bunch of election deniers on the left looking into election technologies. He is their guy from, expert witness standpoint, kind of the most credible guy in the room when it comes to cybersecurity over elections. Made the movie Kill Chain, showed up in that movie. He's been, witness in a whole bunch of different things. Then 2020 election comes around, and all of a sudden, all that stuff I said about our elections is true because, if I say that I was lying, then my credibility as an expert is gone. So it's totally true, but it's fine now because we've made extensive strides. 90 something % of the country, Chris, has some sort of paper record. That's so not paper ballots. And the language in the story about purchasing or Liberty Vote, purchasing Dominion, it reminds me, the way that they're describing this reminds me of what we're told, right? Paper-based transparency, security, and simplicity. Those are nice words. What do they mean in the context of our election systems and how verifiable accuracy? Because the only way that elections are going to work in the future is with verifiable accuracy. You're not going to tell me to trust you anymore. It's also, I'm never going to trust you unless we take the voter rolls down to to zero and start over with only citizens and have it be provable. I'm not going to trust it if Eric is still a thing. And there's, private companies run by the worst, founded and run by the worst people imaginable, that are just sending illegal voters back and forth across the states and creating all this chaos and confusion and noise in the system. It's plausible deniability is they operate within that framework. It's worked out very well for them, but the result is zero trust. I have zero trust for you people, and I don't care what letter is next to your name. I don't care what color your sweater is, if it's red or blue or purple, right? Like I don't care. You have to prove it. You have to give me, I have to be able to verify the accuracy. And to that, to your point about where do we, what do real elections even look like? I don't think it looks like anything that we've seen. Maybe, my first election was 2000 Bush v. Gore. And in that election, it was election day. I was in Florida. It was election day. You walked into the precinct, you checked in on a paper poll book, signed your name into a paper poll book. Little lady checked you in, gave you your ballot, made sure you knew how to use the little cubby hole that, don't talk about, don't raise your voice, don't this. And we've gotten to this point where that whole experience is gone, and it's in the name of like convenience replaced with whatever this is, which is just corrupt.
Yeah, the only thing about that though is they used to steal elections back then too.
Sure.
Like they'll always have ways to put their person in there because that's what politics are. They make deals about which person is going to represent the uniparty, and then sometime later they will say, yes, you voted for this person that we already chose in the primary. Yes, you voted for this person that we already chose in the general election. So this person that you chose is going to represent our interests to you in office. And that's what the system really is. So I don't, that system inspires more confidence. The old way we used to do it, and we think about that way. But if that system deserves no confidence, then at least they've made it faster.
Yeah, it's definitely more, they're defrauding us more efficiently.
Yes.
And just for the record's sake, I'm pretty sure in the 2000 election, I voted by absentee ballot because I was at CU. And I was a Florida voter. I never registered in Colorado when I was in college or anything. However, when I voted in the little precinct with the little old lady, and I thought that it was a good community. You're all standing in line together, right? And it's this community. We're all voting. We're doing democracy and choosing our people. It's hard to come to the realization that that's fake. And I think you're right. I think it was just as fake before Hava, and the 2000 election is the turning point, right? That was that birthed the Hava Act, which birthed the elections industry as we know it today. I do think that there is the key to a key distinction pre 2000 and post 2000 is centralization. I think things got a lot more centralized after Hava required them to be, new reporting requirements, new technology. It was more efficient for the states to comply with Hava in a more centralized manner, and so elections became more centralized, and that was one of the earliest impacts. That to me is the number one problem that we have is the centralization, because centralization creates complexity, and the complexity breeds and hides corruption. And we see that in our election system. The complexity of it means the plausible deniability. And EMS admin did that. And we've learned mistakes were made on all sides, Chris, and we've learned lessons that we're going to keep better records in the future. And you don't know who won that last election, but they certified it already. And so we're just gonna move forward, and we'll make sure that we correct our processes in the back of our bureaucratic office before the next election. That's been happening for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, the Kennedy election, the JFK election, don't they say isn't the story
Hawaii, right?
Was, yeah. So, I mean, this sort of thing has been happening for a long time. We also just simply have too many elected offices because
Tammany Hall, Chris, was what,
exactly
1860 something. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's always been happening.
Yeah.
And it's actually, Burning Bright and I did Gangs of New York for Story Hour once. And and there's a long scene in that where they are using illegal aliens to conscript them into the army and go to war against American citizens, but also to vote illegally in elections, winning elections for, I think in that case, the Democrats.
Yes.
So that stuff's always been present, but we also our government is too large. There are too many elected positions. The elections in states where we're electing secretaries of state and the rest of it, that stuff's got to go. I mean, we should be electing a very small handful of people who then faithfully represent our interests in larger, more centralized groups when that's necessary. And it's almost never necessary, which is why our federal government is not supposed to have 99% of the powers that it has now. All of that stuff has been ceded from the people to the federal government, and there has never been a good justification for it. And we can see the results.
Yeah, and not just to the federal government, to the state government. Like you said, we have to elect all these different people and all these things to plan society, right? To centrally plan society. Who's going to tell us which vaccines are safe for our babies that are getting 50 vaccines if we don't have a whole bunch of bureaucrats that we fund from our tax dollars? And that's every domain. It's this creep, this bureaucratic creep, but it's not. Creep makes it sound like it's almost unintentional or like a byproduct. Not at all. It's the plan to continually convince people that they need central planners to plan their lives. We're just planning society. We're just planning. I've had to take this stupid vaccine waiver test like 8 times, and I did a stand down with the school. I blinked. The game of chicken I lost, because they finally came to the point where, like, your son can't come to school. Now here's the thing. I did the test and I printed the certificate for one of my kids, and then you're supposed to be able to hit the back button and print another certificate for your other kid. Well, the thing crashed out after that happened. So I had the one for Josh, didn't have the one for Danny. So I send Josh's to Danny's school, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to take the test again. I have no intention of taking this test again, but I can prove that I took it, and I'm his mother. So, this should be sufficient for you to know that I know what the ingredients of vaccines are and that they're all super safe and effective. Right.
They make you do a quiz.
You have to take it's like a class. You don't have to like pass a test, but you have to take this class. And I actually sent the link of it to Jordan, because I think it would be great content for his Maha show. They go through every vaccine and every ingredient in every vaccine. And the end of every slide is that, any criticism is unwarranted and debunked, and everything is safe and effective. The end of every single slide that we go through. And you have to do this every year in Colorado for every kid. And so, yeah, I've taken this test, or I call it a test. It's not a test. I've taken the class like a whole bunch of times. But going through this, like I'm marveling at this high school, right? Who's like, well, your son, they send these letters home and all this kind of stuff. And I write back every time I get a letter, write back, I've already submitted proof that I've taken this class. You should just mark it off your list. We're good here. Right. Mm-hmm. Eventually they say, well, if you don't submit a certificate by August 22nd, he can't come to school anymore. And I'm, and I thought about fighting further and going, but my time is valuable. Mm-hmm. And the test itself, or the class itself, is only 30 minutes. So I took it again, and I blinked, I caved, I submitted the paperwork. But it's what is that, right? It's not, we need to make sure that every parent understands the risks of not vaccinating your kids, because I already proved that I took it, and they know that I take it every year because I submit the waiver every year, right? So they know. And I prove that, hey, I just took it again. It's just that your stupid system glitched out and won't let me print a second certificate. No, you have to take it again, because we need to have this piece of paperwork that has his name on it, not his brother's name. Not forget the fact that you would be on both of them, right? I would be on both of them for taking for doing the class for both kids. Doesn't matter. We need the paperwork. We need the bureaucratic record of this. And we're going to deny you access to the school. You deny your child an education if you don't give us the appropriate paperwork with the right name on it, even though you can prove that, it's you and you've actually done the thing, but you haven't given us the right piece of paper.
Well, you need to petition the state to have guardianship over your own child.
Yeah.
Because he's theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. They might try to trans them, which I would in this state. You kidding me? They love transing kids in this state, and
big business.
Yeah. We have falling down kind of moment here in the Ebb household. If I ever found out that anybody was trying to trans my kid.
That's hilarious.
All right. So so Dominion. So the could be a good thing, right? Possibly a good guy, if such a thing exists. Possibly a good guy now owns all of the Dominion's sole private owner of Dominion source code and No Ink source code. I mean, he was the one who developed No Ink, so I'm not sure that there's any sort of transition happening here. But that's 2 election technology companies, both of whom have had allegations of malfeasance at best, outright fraud at worst. Now they're both, I think both of those companies are under Liberty vote, which sounds really good because we like Liberty, right? Yes. Liberty's good. It's better than Dominion, because that sounds like, the election's trying to be satanic. Now it's free because it's Liberty, and they're rebranded. I can be sold that this is a good thing, but I need to be sold with the facts. I need to be shown how this is going to change anything and not just be a rebranding.
Yeah. The other annoying thing about that, and I like Raheem Kassam, but the idea that they've gone to that, they like some group of quote unquote influencers on the right has gone to a White House briefing. Well, I watched influencers go to a White House briefing on the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out so well. And I just watched the clown show the other day with the Antifa meeting. And let's be realistic, that's a farce. Yeah. So him saying we had this White House briefing and they said that this is the way to go. Okay, well, you're a journalist. Shouldn't you be telling us why?
Yeah. Well, and the way that went down, I think I'm just gonna pull it up because I think that this is the I am not going to trust you. And I like Raheem Kassam too. I think the National Pulse has some great reporting as far as, mainstream reporting sites go. I think they do good work. I met Raheem Kassam at the Cyber Symposium. I'm sure you did too.
I didn't actually.
Oh yeah, he was there. I didn't meet you at the Cyber Symposium, which I think is crazy. Because I met Brian. This is where I met Brian. But like it's not Raheem is a bad guy. It's not Liberty Vote is a bad guy. It's not this Leinendecker guy is a bad guy. It's that I'm not going to trust that any of you are good guys because that's what got us into this mess, is trusting that the bureaucrats and the public-private partnership that is running elections, trusting that it's being run by honorable people when in fact it's being run by communist scumbags. That's what got us into the mess. And saying, well, we're not communist scumbags, so you can trust us to run the system. No, actually, I can't because I know too much about the system now. I know that you use EMS admin for all of the credentials, so we can't tell who did anything. So you can't actually tell us who defrauded us. If in fact somebody defrauds us, you can't tell us because the way the systems are set up. I know that people in the local precincts can pause the election event on the machines, check the results of the races, see who's winning, see how many votes they need, then restart the election event and the system log doesn't show that any of that happened because it's programmed not to capture those actions. The systems are designed for fraud, and it's not just Dominion. It's the elections industry that was birthed out of Hava. It's all the same source codes, or at least the start of it is the same source code, going back to Smartmatic and Diebold. And Brian and I talk about this tonight on Why We Vote. Since he's in California, it's recorded. It's funny. The recording is funny because at the beginning of it, we're like, if something major happens, don't get pissed at us for not talking about it because it hasn't happened yet. And then sure enough, we get this this sale. But the funny thing is that we kind of talked about it anyway. We talked about how Brian, I think it was Brian, said something along the lines of, I wonder who's going to buy Dominion next, because that's where this has to go based on the history. So if you want to see us talking about the story before it broke, tune into Why We Vote tonight at 7:30.
This is an interesting, just to close things down, because I think we're switching topics, but this is an interesting little monkey wrench thrown into the system. Considering that we have elections in a few weeks. I don't know that Dominion systems are in Virginia or New Jersey. And I think there's one other state that's doing gubernatorial level elections, but
Colorado has them. You mean in 26?
No, in 25, in like 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
So I wonder if this will be a factor in that. I assume that we are going to see some pretty obviously stolen elections in a few weeks, where a bunch of degenerate communists are named the winners of fake elections over establishment Republicans. And I think that this cycle and the midterm cycle of 2026, we're probably going to see a reversal of the tenor of the 2022 midterms, when we were all anticipating a red wave. And then on election night, we get all of Con Inc., all of the mainstream people who pretend to be on the right, telling us that Republicans lost because of the MAGA candidates who would not stop talking about our stolen elections. And so I think we're going to get the reversal of that, where these establishment candidates, who are the ones we were told had to run in order to beat these Democrats, I think that they will lose to the most ridiculous Democrats imaginable, like our boy Mom in New York and some of this other stuff.
Yeah. Do you remember the JD Vance Senate election?
I didn't spend much time on it. 2022 midterms. So all part of the same thing, but go ahead.
Well, no, it's just it's all anecdotal. My first, exposure to interaction with JD Vance was America First grassroots people that I was working with in elections in Ohio and in some of the surrounding states being really pissed because he wasn't the America First choice. He was the Trump endorsed choice, which doesn't necessarily mean America First when Trump endorses candidates. But I've always kind of wondered about him, because I saw that happen here, where the America First candidates who went through the assembly process, and they had a ground game, they had the popular support among the voters that are most engaged in their party. That's who does the candidate selection processes. And I think that that's a more verifiably accurate way than the statewide petition on to everybody can petition onto the ballot. So whoever can buy the most signature gatherers gets onto the ballot. And but in our state, at least, there's a process through assembly where the most involved, they do this once, because it's kind of nominating convention type of thing before national election day. And they're people now, how do they use that? Do they do it on paper? Do they use clicker devices? It's all messed up at every level, right? But it's a more representative way, I think, of what the party, like if we have parties in that ecosystem, parties actually have statutory authority in the law in Colorado and in many other states. But we have here, we knew, for example, Tina Peters ran for Secretary of State in 2022. Then we had Pam Anderson, who was Norma Anderson. Norma Anderson is the one that sued to keep Trump off the ballot. Anderson versus Griswold was the case. Her daughter-in-law, Pam, was the one who ran against Tina Peters, and then won the petitioned on, didn't face the voters in any popular, grassroots in any way whatsoever. It was just petition that she got on the ballot. She won the primary, and then lost to Jenna Griswold. Now, in that dynamic, Jenna Griswold, Pam Anderson, no different. They believe in the same. There's a gold standard, right? We need to expand access. Access is the most important metric in elections. Uniparty right, 100% uniparty right kind of platform. And that whole case of Anderson suing Griswold to keep Trump off the ballot, Jenna Griswold, for the first part of that, pretended like she wasn't part of it. But as soon as the district court finding came out, oath-breaking insurrectionist was the only thing that she would say. It was clear that the whole thing was an op. And that's that was kind of how the JD Vance Senate campaign was pitched to me, was that it was the people had a choice of what they wanted to do with their party, and the party national infrastructure came in and basically said, no, we're not doing that. We're putting this person in place instead.
Yeah, it seems like there's been a lot of that over the last few years. And, with a fake election system, the question is always, well, how did our side win this fake election if elections are fake? Well, yeah, I mean, the sad truth of it is somebody else made that choice and put that person in. Donald Trump, again, has created for himself a broad public mandate. There's no other politician in the country who can say that, to my knowledge. Maybe in local communities, everybody loves their mayor or something, but and it's clear that mayor is legitimately the guy that the people want to lead them. But otherwise, it's just a farce, and people are being selected, and both sides know it. And these are not our representatives.
Yeah, agreed. So certainly, mine's Lauren Boebert, Chris. Lauren Boebert does not represent me. I don't even think she shows up to work most days. All right, moving on from elections. I actually saw this. I had missed this story yesterday until I saw it in your Telegram chat. Ninth Circuit lifts ban on Oregon National Guard deployment to Portland. We keep watching this story, this process through which we go into the court. The district courts go, absolutely not. The president can't do whatever it is. And it's, his entire agenda is going through this process. Then the appellate court comes in more often than not, I think, and this is, kind of finger in the air, but more often than not, it gets overturned because we have a bunch of people telling the president what he can and can't do. And the appellate courts, I think, have been pretty good in terms of saying, no, district court, you can't do that. And sometimes it goes to the Supreme Court. But this one is going on. We did the DC thing, right? We did LA. So Trump sent LA troops to LA to deal with the riots there, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the courts. And ultimately Trump kept the power of the National Guard. Then we did DC, and we had, DC cleaned up. Trump talks about that as a great accomplishment, right? That DC, he cleaned up DC. He keeps bringing that one up. Now we've got Oregon and Chicago, and we're doing the same thing through the courts.
Yeah, I like, this is one of the things we've kind of been on Badlands talking about for quite a while, but I want to see all of these cases adjudicated in public and taken all the way to the end of the line. I want to see appeal after appeal. I want to see bad decisions, just like I want to see good decisions, because I want all of these legal issues to get hashed out so that we at least have some understanding of how the system is working as compared to how the system is meant to work. So I always, I think that these are valuable, even when a given stage of the process doesn't seem like it's going our way. I think the only thing to compare any of these decisions to is the original Constitution. And as long as the president is in line with the original Constitution and the Bill of Rights, that's the extent of it. Yeah.
So the original Constitution.
Yeah. Yes.
Not the post-Civil War transition major democracy Constitution. Agreed.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Not the Reconstruction Constitution.
Agreed. All right. Now let's talk. Speaking of judges doing things that they probably don't have the authority to do. Judge forces Trump administration to tell what security clearance Musk had when he oversaw Doge and cost cutting. This is really funny to me, the way that these the quotes are funny to me in here. Trump administration must reveal what kinds of security clearances have been granted to Elon Musk. A new New York federal court ruled Wednesday. The public has an interest in knowing whether the leader of SpaceX and Starlink holds the appropriate security clearances, Judge Denise Cote wrote. The ruling came in a suit brought by the New York Times against the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency after the newspaper petitioned the agency last year under FOIA about the billionaire tech mogul's clearances. Agency repeatedly rejected the request, arguing it could constitute an unwarranted invasion of Musk's privacy. In her ruling, she wrote that Musk's public status as a special government employee leading the Trump administration's Doge cost-cutting program was, as well as the billionaire's own public comments, security clearance and personal life are outweighed by these concerns. She pointed to disclosures from Musk seen by millions on social media, including a February post where he wrote, I've had top secret clearance for many years and have clearances that themselves are classified. And in the brief today, Ghost did a take on this. It basically said, like, he should just go to court. And when she asks about his clearances, just say, sorry, it's classified. And, ostensibly he could. She also noted Musk's past comments about drug use, including a 2023 admission he occasionally used ketamine, a federally controlled substance. The judge also pointed to a 2024 statement from the billionaire that after he smoked marijuana during a podcast appearance, NASA conducted regular drug testing. Quote, Musk's numerous public statements regarding his own drug use, contacts with foreign leaders, only enhance the public interest in the disclosure. The court gives the government until October 17th to submit potential redactions to the security clearance documents sought.
The people own all of the government's information and should have access to all of the government's information at all times. Like, that's just my baseline. So should Elon Musk have to do this? Yeah. I mean, we should be able to find out what security clearances government employees have and what security clearances exist. Again, you can't have government of, by, and for the people if the people have no idea what their government is doing or how their government works. Now, maybe that's just the state of the world, and that's just the nature of our existence, and we will never get further than that. But while we are participating in the illusion, at least, of self-governance, well, then we have access to all the information, period.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the idea. I think we've seen this a few times with Elon Musk as being the vehicle for change, right? That
Yeah.
there's something that he, as a vendor, largest DoD contractor, whatever, is facing that actually, may set precedent and change the process. I don't remember anybody caring about, Mark Zuckerberg's security clearances. He definitely has them. Bezos security clearances, he definitely has them. But Elon Musk is, he came out and endorsed Trump, so he's the guy. The one thing that I really want to know about this is what are the classified security clearances? Like, we all think that like Q is the highest one, right? Like there's the Q clearance is the high. Like, what else? What are the really cool things we haven't heard about yet? What else are they doing? And I think you're spot on. The people have a right to know. They don't. The idea that the government needs to have so much secrecy in order to keep us all safe is bullshit.
Yeah. Well, yes. And when you have that level of secrecy and you are also the ones informing the public about what the threats are, though you can't describe them in detail because that would make the threat more dangerous. I mean, you're already in, like, you're drifting in space at that point. The other thing that's relevant here is the overclassification that we deal with in our government. And maybe this case will begin to chip away at the overclassification. Like, if there are security clearances that themselves are classified, I mean, all of this is so ridiculous.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm just trying to get up our next sponsor, and for some reason it's not letting me pull in the graphic. Let me see if I can pull it in a different way. Sorry guys, if I can add it. There we go. Okay. All right, everybody. So the show is also sponsored by Chef Man. Hang on, let me make sure that it is actually sponsored by Chef Man. No. Yes, it is. Yay. You know how, I talked about this yesterday, and it's absolutely true. How much I love my Chef Man appliances. They have completely upgraded my kitchen without a remodel. Chef Man's Pebble Ice Maker. They call it the Pebble Ice Maker on the website. I call it Ice Daddy because I love it so much. Gives me perfect chewable ice, the kind you beg for at drive-thrus. It's concession stand ice. At least it reminds me of like concession stand ice when I was a kid. You go to the concession stand, you get a soda and like maybe a, I don't know, ring pop or something, and that's the ice. I love it so much, and I have it at home every single day now. Big fan of the Pebble Ice Maker. Chef Man has also outdone themselves with the Obliterator blender. It's not just a blender; it's a kitchen beast. I've never had a blender like this. It has, I think, 8 settings, and I can't get past 2 because it like feels like it's going to launch into space at the second setting. Just Obliterator is a great name because it absolutely blasts through everything. Frozen margaritas, hot soups, sauces. It's unstoppable and it's smart. It has auto blend technology, which means no guesswork. Literally reads the texture, so we get perfect consistency in every single blend. No more mystery chunks in the smoothie. And get this, it cleans itself. Press self-clean, boom, done. I got this sleek, compact, award-winning design, so it looks great on my countertop, and it's every bit as powerful as those fancy blenders without the ridiculous price tag. I think it's better, to be honest. With our discount, you'll save even more. Visit chefman.com/badlands and use promo code badlands for 20% off. chefman.com/badlands, promo code badlands. And the ice maker also cleans itself. I imagine the smoothie maker does as well. I don't have the smoothie maker, but the ice maker cleans itself. You just run the clean cycle once a week, and it's super fast. And then you have, beautiful, clean little pebble ice from the Ice Daddy. Big fan of the Chef Man products. You guys check them out. chefman.com/badlands, promo code badlands.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun. Iced coffees with that thing.
Yeah. Very, very good stuff. And then hold for processing. We have one more. Sorry, when I had to refresh, I had all this set up. I promise, guys, I had it all set up before the show, but then I had to refresh it, so I lost it all. But we're getting back. Final sponsor of today is Native Path. Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see plump, hydrated skin instead of fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body, found in your cartilage, bone, skin, hair, nails, and gut. Types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula, no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, plus it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Did I read that line already? Peptide formula makes it more bioavailable. It is absorbed easily and it mixes without clumping. This is something that is the game changer of it is the clumping, because like when you put you add something to a coffee or a drink, whatever, and you end up with that like chunk of powder at the bottom of the cup. This dissolves before it hits the bottom of the cup. And I've talked a lot about it, but my you hear that? That's my paper nails that are now strong because of Native Path Collagen. They also offer amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Join the private Facebook community, share success stories, recipes, and support each other on this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/badlands, getnativepath.com/badlands, and start your transformation today. And I really do like it. I have like the nails that tear and skin, hair. It's great all around, and it dissolves. No flavor. No, it doesn't change the consistency of your coffee or anything. It's just an easy wellness thing you can do each day. Cool. All right. So now we have a few more domestic stories, and then we'll have a couple. I only have like 3 international stories today. So
cool.
Because fuck the foreigners. All right, we're going to talk about vaccines now, because they're changing, or they're at least assessing. We're going to do a study, which is, always great. Always a great use of money. We haven't done studies enough. CDC panel announces plans to assess childhood vaccines. Group of outside experts will also consider shot ingredients like aluminum, as well as timing and order of vaccines, according to a document posted on the agency's website. As someone who just took the state of Colorado vaccine class twice this year, I can tell you that aluminum in vaccines is safe and effective. And anyone that says it's not has been debunked.
Yeah. This is not medical advice.
This is definitely not medical advice. This is sick care propaganda. The CDC's vaccine advisors will review the safety and efficacy of the childhood vaccine schedule, including the timing of shots given to kids and possible risks associated with common vaccine ingredients, according to a document posted Thursday to the agency's website. A work group within the advisory committee on immunization practices. That is a whole lot of, it's like 3 different bureaucratic levels right there. Will gather information as part of a multi-year effort to inform future recommendations on a raft of issues that vaccine skeptics, including Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., have floated as possible drivers of chronic and neurodevelopmental conditions like autism, despite ample research refuting most of their claims. The document's release comes 3 weeks after President Donald Trump said his administration was in the process of removing aluminum from vaccines during a speech where he suggested that the current childhood vaccine schedule could be tied to autism. And during a cabinet meeting on Thursday, Trump called for shots to be given in smaller doses to young children, claiming they're double the size of a glass of water, while adding that he's a vaccine believer. So one of the things that's funny to me about this is, like, we're going to pull aluminum out of the vaccines. They're going to make a case that aluminum is, toxic or harmful in some way, and that it shouldn't be in the vaccines. In that class, they just go hard in the paint about how important it is that we have things like aluminum, formaldehyde, other additives and things. Very, very important to have them in there because of shelf stability and, the ability for it to go all the places in the body where it needs to go and cross all the barriers it's not supposed to cross. we've been told, so, to sum up, we've been told repeatedly that we need aluminum in vaccines because it's critical to the efficacy of vaccines. I wonder if they won't work if we take the aluminum out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's also I think it's kind of the same. It's formed in very much the same way as the election conversation that we were just having. You want to pull out these elements that are bad while still retaining this thing that we know is good, right? Trump is going through the process of this very slowly. Some people think it's because he's a sold out vaccine shill. I don't buy that at all. He's got to deal with the public ramping down from this vaccine regime for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. Yeah. We believe that these vaccines are a necessary part of keeping us healthy. And then you begin to go one by one. You know what? It's the vaccine plus when they give acetaminophen. So it's really just the acetaminophen. And then we get past that by a few weeks and they're like, well, the aluminum should come out. And then at every stage, they're also like, well, these are too many vaccines for children. And so then people are like beginning to build a different and competing belief step by step. Okay, the acetaminophen, that's got to go. Aluminum, that's got to go. We definitely agree there's too many vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule. How many cycles of that do you have to go through before there's nothing left? Same thing with the elections. The machines are a problem. The voter registries are a problem. The audits are a problem. You just keep going through. Eventually, there's nothing left of the thing, and there's no faith left in that thing that we used to cling to. And I think that that's kind of the point of these information operations as they go on. I hope that's the point. Otherwise, we are staring down something that is far worse than I think we give it credit for. But, I've seen Donald Trump make use of this process across a whole range of issues over the last 10 years. So I would think that the important thing to focus on here is the directionality. And if he says something wrong, if what he's saying is not sufficient for you, speak up. Just say this is not correct without being like, okay, therefore Trump is an enemy.
Yeah, you and the other DPH guys talk a lot about Trump having the public mandate. Mm-hmm. And he could, people think it's, why aren't we getting the vaccine disclosure? Like, why aren't we getting the truth about vaccines? We are. The social change that has to happen, though, is not just policy. It's not just we need to ban aluminum in vaccines and then things are going to be fine. You actually have to seed the collective mind. You have to get people comfortable with the changeover. And what we saw in COVID with the vaccines is such a it's like the whole of the vaccine issue in a snow globe that we can watch. If you just zoom out and look at it, anything that happened with that vaccine, it definitely couldn't have been the vaccine. People are getting these new clots that are being pulled out of them. They've embalmers and morticians and emergency, healthcare professionals that deal with, vascular issues. They've never seen this before. This is a new thing that is happening in the wake of the COVID vaccine, but it's definitely not the vaccine. There are reproductive issues that are happening to women that never got vaccinated. Women that never got vaccinated are all of a sudden starting to bleed or having other fertility and reproductive issues. It's definitely not the vaccine. It can't be the vaccine. And that's been the premise of the autism debate for, ever. Oh, it definitely can't. Vaccines don't cause autism. That's been debunked. It definitely can't be the vaccine. And to convince people that have been since at least 1989, brainwashed and sort of half threatened to not raise questions about what the medical experts are telling you have to put into your children, to change that programming, it is going to take longer than 5 minutes. I don't think President Trump could come in and say, listen, everybody, vaccines cause autism and it's the aluminum and it's the formaldehyde. And also Tylenol is bad. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. Tylenol is bad. Like, we need to end all of these things. Well, he did a much nicer version of that, sort of. And you now have like the whole of the establishment pushing back, saying that the medical establishment is now spreading disinformation, and trust the shadow experts that aren't in the government anymore, because what they've told you about these diseases and these vaccines to treat these diseases was really true all along. It's just that President Trump and Robert Kennedy are conspiracy theorists. And we can trust the science. We just got to wait out this season, and we can trust the science. I don't think President Trump is doing this as a policy change. I think he really is using, he has, as you said, he has the mandate. He could use the mandate. He could go tyrant for a day. And I think a week later, the majority of people would probably forgive him based on what he accomplishes. Because if he went tyrant for a day, he could get a lot of shit done. Right. But he doesn't want to do that, I think, because we're giving power back to the people. The people have to demand these changes. But in order for the people to demand the changes, their minds have to be changed. They have the programming, it's so deep. This is like, I was talking about this yesterday offline with Ghost about Israel. The messaging that boomers, from the moment they were born, were told about Israel, raised up through, you are the generation that's going to see the coming of the Lord, because the nation of Israel was established while in the time that you were alive. You guys are prophet. Like this is a really big deal. It's prophecy. Now boomers are in their 70s, 80s, and that is 70, 80 years of programming that, in order to come to a recognition of, hey, hang on a second, maybe we don't have to, blank check and uncritically support everything that this foreign nation does. It's going to take the people who have been brainwashed this since birth. It's going to take them the longest, probably. It's going to be a more painful experience. I think for vaccines, that's true. And I think especially for the COVID vaccine, which this story is not about the COVID vaccine, but especially for the COVID vaccine, because people weren't critical at all. A lot of parents weren't critical at all. I remember my son's Caleb. You met Caleb.
Sure.
Caleb's girlfriend at the time got vaccinated so she could cheer. Now, funny thing about that is they didn't make the hockey players get vaccinated. Just the football and cheerleaders had to get vaccinated.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
People have to make these decisions on their own, ultimately.
Yeah.
The idea that we have that the government is dictating vaccine policy in the first place. Okay, well, we as the people have already given the government too much power. Therefore, that power must be stripped back. How do we strip back that power? Well, we can't depend on the system to do it. So we're going to just have to do it ourselves. And that means that we do, if you have to do what you're doing, fine. You have to take your kids out of school, fine. Just don't hand them over to the state and let the state inject them with toxic experimental substances that can't protect them from diseases that can't kill them.
Yeah. And that they don't know that they have, unless they take a test that doesn't test for it.
Yeah, we are scared of measles, mumps, and rubella. Oh, the measles, that's got to be the worst thing ever. Well, measles might be bad sometimes. I don't know, because I haven't had measles. I can imagine that it is bad. There's no reason to believe that the vaccine is what's preventing people from getting it. I mean, taking the COVID vaccine example, you should extrapolate that example to every other vaccine.
Agreed.
There's no reason to give any vaccine more credit than you give the COVID vaccine, which deserves no credit at all.
Yeah. Chickenpox. They do a vaccine for chickenpox.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
The vaccine for chickenpox used to just be getting chickenpox.
Someone in the chat said that I was bashing boomers. I was actually trying to say that we need to extend them grace, because
every time you mention the word boomer, somebody loses their mind.
It's fair. It's fair, but I think boomers deserve grace, because they've been brainwashed more than that level of on some issues. That level of brainwashing is bananas. So I just, on the Robert F. Kennedy topic, this to me is hilarious. So RFK Jr. says children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism, and it's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. Trump: there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this for a long time. So then Jerry Nadler says, This is an anti-Semitic remark. I call on my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to clearly denounce it. The anti-Semitic remark is that children who are circumcised early, when they get Tylenol, have double the rate of autism. And this is from Brian, wins the title of Reader's Context. The community note on this is approximately 65 to 80% of U.S. males are circumcised. Jewish people are 2% of the population. This remark has nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
It is funny that he read it that way, though.
Mm-hmm.
That like circumcision is their thing, and that this is anti-circumcision, therefore it's anti-Jewish. I think that's probably how he got there. You gotta wonder why this weird old man is concerned that people might not be getting as many circumcisions. Like, how are you benefiting from the proliferation of circumcision?
Yeah, and the foreskins are a thing of value, at least biblically. And I told John and Zach yesterday that they should do baseless conspiracies on foreskins, because there's a whole bunch, and a whole bunch of them. And we had a anti-circumcision advocate, activist on Alphas Make Sandwiches, which is really cool. And the stuff that I had never heard about, the nerve endings and medical benefits of I had only ever heard, the biblical story that God demands that it be removed, which is, kind of a bit of a perversion on the biblical story as it pertains to the whole of society. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. is the only country in the world that does recommends non-medical circumcision for every male child born. There's definitely something going on there. And from talking to that activist, she came up to us at, I think it was Plymouth Guard, and just started talking about circumcision. It was a little kind of jarring at first, but then by the end of the conversation, I was like, oh, you got to come on the show, because I've never heard half the things that you're saying. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that it is demanded, and it's, has to be done right away, and has to be, and biblically it's 8 days, but if you have your child in a hospital, they're going to want to circumcise your kid within the first 48 hours. And, also shoot them up with 50 vaccines. I don't know, 30 something vaccines that they get in the first week. It's crazy. And but why is Jerry Nadler so upset about the disruption to the foreskin supply chain? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about things like aborted fetal tissue for stem cells and for vaccines, you got to wonder if there's some similar demand for this young human tissue.
Yeah. Well, they make skincare products out of it, I think. And what the activist lady told us is that the level of nerve endings and the value of the tissue, I'm not going to get the words right, but all the different, kind of things that go into that the sexual experience for men, that they're tied to that piece of tissue, and that it's the way she described it is, if you do this, if you scratch the inside of your palm versus scratching the outside, the back of your hand, the level of sensational difference is similar to the man's level of sensational difference, but the actual skin itself and the process that the foreskin uses is sort of important. And we're never taught that. I sort of feel bad for circumcising my 3 sons. And I didn't do it because I thought it was medically necessary. I did it because I believed that was what I had to do. And many such cases. Yeah. Speaking of retarded reruns, mask mandates are returning to parts of California.
Gosh, the same thing as before, though. If the people are unwilling to not wear masks and to deal with the blowback, what is the point of appealing to the government at that point?
Yeah, the asking for, there are things when and COVID was super helpful, I think, for a lot of us in this. There are things that I don't really give a shit what the government says. Healthcare is one of those things. What after COVID, and I was resistant to a lot of the things that the healthcare industry told us that we needed beforehand. But after COVID, the experts outed themselves as, you know, corporate lobbyists, basically. And after that, no, I don't. I'm going to do my own research. I highlighted Karen Smith on here because that is the most basic doctor name I've ever heard. Dr. Karen Smith. Sounds right. Sounds like she would be the one delivering the new mask mandates to California. But yeah, like I think one thing that you and G are both really good at is kind of pushing that line, right? Like, why are we asking the government? Why are we asking for permission? Why are we, asking the government for this? And, sort of slowly coming along, there are things where it's still like, well, how, right? Like I have a lot of questions about if we don't vote, for example, if we don't have this process through which we make decisions for society, what process will we have? And there's not satisfying answers to that, I don't think, right now. But there are certain areas, because of this journey that we've been on, that there's no, the government will not have a role for me any longer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, in terms of answering the broader question, I would just suggest that were this system not in place, something else would naturally replace it. Demand of people for some level of organization and security would build up something, and it might build up something very similar to what we had at the founding. And this is even prior to the Constitution, which was on many levels just a compromise. It was not like the stamp, like, oh, we finally won, look at this document. That document was a compromise after having already won, and then, needing to cede some of the power back for external reasons. You got to trust that human activity in a free and open marketplace of ideas and activity is going to produce a natural good result. And instead, what we have is a complicated, convoluted system that we know was built to remove that natural order result, and also B, then control everybody in ways that no one would have ever signed up for if they knew where that's where the system was going.
Yeah. It's hard. And I think this is, true broadly at points of change in history and human nature. It's hard to imagine what we haven't seen before, right? Like, is there a system? Is there something else other than the, U.S. constitutional representative republic? Is there something else that could exist that would be better? And this is where, I kind of headbutt with G, because I don't think G, when he talks about like G-topia and, consensus driven society that's on an immutable ledger and that kind of, I don't think he's describing anything new. I mean, the consensus mechanism is new. It's but the societal system that he's describing sounds a lot like aristocracy. Sounds a lot like in that future, the people who have been smart in advance and, bought up all of the Bitcoin, well, those are going to be basically the landowner types in the new system, which is what happened. We were talking about this. Who was talking about this? Somebody was talking about this. Yes. Oh, it was in, I was talking to the Prussiagate guys yesterday, and how after 1871, with the whole humanity is lost at sea, right? The aristocratic types, certain Prussian folk went through the process to declare that they were not in fact lost at sea, and then ended up with the lion's share majority of the resources. And that's how that aristocratic system really kind of got, going again, under different name, right? It's not the aristocracy anymore. It's the corporate whatever, right? It's the reinvention through different names, but it's the same system. And that's like, I really believe there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that technology absolutely can be manipulated. No matter how innovative and new that it is, that's just the way that things go. So to me, rights are the important It's where we place the guardrails. It's what frameworks we have to use. Is how are we, whatever that system is, whatever technology it is, whatever is coming in that domain, us protecting our rights is I think one of the only real ways that we can fight back.
Yeah. But I guess then the conversation moves to, well, what does it mean to protect our rights, and against whom, and what measures would we use, and what measures would we be justified in using? And all of these are unfortunately ways to remedy a society that is dependent on the state, seeing the state as the highest possible good. If people were concerned with living in a godly manner, the laws wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah.
And, working toward that is what we are tasked with ultimately. And so some of these lower order problems are probably unresolvable on some level without fixing that higher order problem, or at least making that the focus of our effort broadly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point. All right. So we're just going to do one more story of it. It's a couple of foreign stories, but they're not. So there's more on Hamas, which, Ghost will talk about for a couple hours today.
Can we also pull up that Chat GPT story that you listed with the Patsy from the California fires? We can spend 30 seconds on this, but this story is ridiculous. Okay. So we're talking 9 months removed from these fires. They've now located this Patsy, and the evidence that is being displayed that lets us know that he really had this evil intent was, and I don't know if you have it in the, if you scroll down, there's a picture of this guy that went
the
around.
GPT picture.
Yep. And then they have these. Okay. So those are designs that Chat GPT made for him. And because a city is on fire in one half of that picture, that means this guy is guilty.
Sure.
I had Chat GPT design me a picture that looks very much like that 9 months ago.
So you burned it down too?
No, yeah. So by the same evidence, I am also guilty of the LA fires. It is so crazy that this is where we are, and that anyone anywhere would take that seriously, including the people who are presenting this guy as a patsy.
Yeah. And what's driving the timing?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, how did we because the level of evidence is not like, oh my God, there's this new witness, there's this explosive thing that we now know that it was this guy. It's the Chat GPT picture that does the Chat GPT picture have a date? Do we know when the Chat GPT picture was created?
I didn't look that far into it, but it really is amazing because what a lot of people described about the way the fire kind of worked down there was that it seemed like it was targeted, and it would hit one house and not the one next to it, and then another one down the street. And we are to believe that all of that happened based on the actions of this Florida Uber driver. I really, really have a hard time believing that.
Wait, did he light the
fire? Oh, there it is. It says July 2024, by the way, for your dystopian painting.
July. So he created a picture 5 months before he allegedly set the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And now in October of 2025, we've got our man from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Based on, it's sort of Minority Report-ish. Like they're
dumber.
But way dumber. Yeah. Yeah. They don't even have those women in the water stuff doing the things. Like this is way dumber. Yeah. All right. So last story we'll do, because the foreign stories aren't important. I mean, I'm sure they are to somebody, but Times of India, did Vivek Ramaswamy compare the Holy Trinity with Hinduism? Controversy erupts as Nikki Haley's son says, my Sikh grandparents never would have. This is interesting. We're gonna do this video here. And then this will be our last story.
What is what the press says about your beliefs? You call yourself a Hindu, but you also call yourself Christian.
I don't call myself Christian. I call myself a Hindu. I know that may be a hard thing to process. I will tell you, I'm not running to be pastor of Ohio. I'm running to be governor of Ohio, and I didn't run to be pastor of America. I ran to be president of the United States of America. Do you think it's inappropriate for someone who's a Hindu to be, say, a U.S. president?
No, I think
Yes.
it's... No, well...
You be honest.
Yes. All right. So, sorry. So Nikki Haley's son, and I hit the wrong button and accidentally closed the thing. So hold for processing. Here we go. Nikki Haley, her son said, just when you thought it couldn't get worse, comparing the Holy Trinity to your 330 million gods is blasphemous, disrespectful, and a slap in the face to every Christian. If you're going to run for governor in a state that is, sorry, I didn't realize it was one of the ones that if you're going to run for governor in a state that is Christian, have the decency to learn our faith and not slander it. And I mean, yeah, I don't know that I religious tests, I think, are probably a bad idea. I do think that, comparing all religions are the same and is in Ohio, in any southern state, in maybe Utah, although they might be all right with it. Those are fatal assertions to the campaign. We still have a predominantly Christian nation, not biblically Christian, but claiming Christian, right? Our morality landscape as it pertains to the framework of our law is, still largely, not exactly, but largely biblical. And I just thought it was interesting that Nikki Haley's son was the one who came out and got all pissy about it, because I also thought she was Hindu, but I guess not.
Yeah.
He's Catholic.
Vivek Ramaswamy is Barack Obama, and listening to extended segments of even that speech, you're like, oh, this is exactly Barack Obama. He is more Barack Obama than Hakeem Jeffries is, and yet still slightly less Barack Obama than J.D. Vance is. As far as the religious test for office goes, I don't believe that there should be a legal religious test for office. I don't believe that it should be encoded in our law that only Christians should be elected to office. That is a decision that we should make for ourselves and determine that we would never support for office anyone who's not a Christian. And that's
great.
And I mean that in like real Christian terms, not like some Judeo-Christian conservative who goes around professing religion all day and has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. Life and ministry of Jesus Christ. Does their fruit reflect the life and ministry of Jesus Christ?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's agreed. All right. So I think we are just about done. We are going to very quickly though. And again, all my stuff is not down where I put it before because of my stupid internet. But I mean, 2 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and Guard's coming up in a month. We've got this time next month. We will all be in Cocoa Beach. Be hanging out. We'll be talking about all the things. We have some good panels shaping up. We did our first Guard live stream yesterday, and folks had some great ideas on panels that I think we're going to do a lot of them. You and I talked about doing sort of a radical doubt withholding belief panel, which I think has the potential to be great conversation. G Money wants to talk about Bitcoin and what is digital 1776. So we have that to look forward to. We have they're going to be different. I think we're going to revisit the election panel. We haven't done that in like a year. We haven't had I don't think at GART an election panel in about a year. And there has been, new revelations, new executive orders, and this, new mergers, differences in the vendor landscape and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you get a virtual ticket, badlandsmedia.tv/events, you can join us for next week's virtual live stream, where you help us shape the panels and, we're a little bit more irreverent than usual with each other on the GART live streams because it's such a small group that's on those chats. It's very exclusive. That's why we call it exclusive. So get your tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events. I think we still have in-person tickets left for the event. So if you're in Florida and you can make it to Cocoa Beach, you definitely should because it's a blast. But if you can't, then grab a virtual ticket. And the fun starts now, right? Like we're doing virtual live streams. And by the time we get to GART, it's going to be great. So badlandsmedia.tv/events, get your GART tickets. And we have a few rants. CannCon says, pick the worst freaking 2 days to go to a wedding in California. Be sure to watch Why We Vote tonight. Going to be really relevant to this Liberty Vote buyout. Yeah, I already told him, Brian. We sort of, Brian definitely says in that episode, who's going to buy Dominion next, because that's where this has to go.
Nice.
Yeah. And we recorded Wednesday night. So it's fun. It's fun for us. $5 from EC. Yeah, EC was here. My 2 favorites on one show. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Money710 says 24-hour fitness in Las Vegas uses an index finger pad to identify for entry. What do you think of that for voting? I think it can still be corrupted because it's a technology-based system. So if you think about like signature verification for mail-in ballots, that's a way of proving who you are. It's technology-based and it's run off of a database of signatures that's held by the government. So this would be a database of your fingerprints that's held by the government. It's also, I think, yielding territory on personal sovereignty with the fingerprint that we don't need to do with the government. What do you think?
I'm co-sign on all that.
Whiskey Girl, happy 3-year anniversary to John and the Badlands Media team. Thanks, Chris and Ashe. We appreciate you both. Hugs. We appreciate you. And it was great to see you yesterday. Yeah, we 3 years. 3 years since John Harold founded Badlands Media, and the world will never be the same.
Indeed.
Congratulations to John and to the whole Badlands community. Because I think John himself would say that, he founded Badlands, but what we built belongs to all of us. In fact, I've actually heard him say that. So I know it's true. Tattoo teacher. I second that, Whiskey Girl. Thanks, Tat. Elise says, thank you, Ashe and Chris. Love you guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. And Isle of White Privilege. White is spelled W-I-G-H-T. I love it so much. Happy Friday. What a week of Badlands goodness. Yeah, and the Badlands goodness is not going to stop. I think we've got Maha News today. We've got another geopolitics with Ghost, if I'm not mistaken. Why We Vote coming up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, followed by Spellbreakers with Matt Trump. And I think we will have an OnlyLands tonight. So stay tuned to Badlands Media because we got stuff happening all day. It's going to be a blast. Chris, anything you got going on?
No, no. I'm writing a book. So I'm very quiet these days, or relatively quiet these days. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. All right. Yeah, we're going to get out of here, guys. So please do us a favor and hit the like button wherever you're watching us. It helps us out tremendously. Oh, let me check because I just realized we're streaming to YouTube. I got an error when I streamed to YouTube originally, but then Jessica popped in here and fixed it. No, I don't see anything over there. All right, we're going to get out of here, guys. Smash the thumb. Have a great weekend. And, lucky for all of you, Brian will be back on Monday. Bye.
They say confidence starts with a smooth skin. And baby, Soft Disclosure Lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. My hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting Soft Disclosure on. It is black man approved. I kid you not.
Black man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
Feet are they get so dry, the heels of them, it'll just kind of flake off. But with Soft Disclosure, once you put it on, it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com. Use code BADLANDS and get 15% off.